welcome back to the Dario Ultimate series. This is going to be our second entry now. And before I begin, I do want to point out that making this series is, well, it hits kinda different. In my last entry, I somehow recorded all of that with confidence. And right now, in this second entry, I feel completely nervous. So, my point with that is, I will try to keep this I will take my time. I will not rush this. Oh, anyway, we are here in a TTT map called Weekend in Estate version 4. For anyone that likes to check out this map at some point, I will be providing this map in the description. Okay, there are a few topics here for the second entry. There are a few follow-ups that I wanted to do from the first one. In the first entry, I did mention that I wanted to make a Minecraft mod called the United Planet, and I've ended up explaining why it's not possible. And people hear that and think, what is the United Planet in the first place? So, sit down, gather around. This is why we're here at the fireplace, with some cozy vibes and some storytelling. And I will be gonna be telling a story about the whole lore of the Dreamland. So, it starts with me casually walking outside, exploring the environment. There are some caves nearby I wanted to explore, check out. And then there's something that catches my eye. There's some kind of reflection coming from a certain opening, and I look in, I walk in further and see there's something lying over there. Seems like a robot. So I get closer, and it looks like a robot. It's an actual robot. It's just a shell. It's off, it's dead, I don't know. So out of curiosity, I take the robot with me to my home. And I just sit it down on my room's floor and keep it there for a while. As the days pass on, I did notice that something with that robot kept changing. And eventually it occurred to me that the sun that kept shining through my room onto that robot kept doing something to it, and that's where it clicked. That robot was charged by solar power. At some point, it turned on and it just sat there looking at me. I got closer and asked, "Hi, do you understand me? Can you talk?" But it didn't say anything. Then it occurred to me it doesn't know the English language. or any human language really. So my idea was, okay, how about we give it a dictionary? And so that's what I did. It took a bit of time for her to... Funny that I say her now, because yeah, it's... Anyway, well, I gave her the dictionary, she learned it for a while, and I've got 2 words out of her. That being safety and thankful. That's all I got from her. She eventually kept on learning and learning. And at some point she perfected her dictionary of the English language, and she came up to me and said, I am damaged, I need replacement parts. And so, well, considering I'm not really a technician or anything, I told her, well, give me a list of what to get you and I'll get you it. And that's exactly what happened. Throughout the days, I provided her with everything I got. And by the end of her fixing herself up, she didn't leave, she just decided to stay because this is... I gave her a form of treatment which switched something in her, and so she decided to stay. There are a lot of interesting things that she knew, and well, to keep it short, she knew a lot. There's a lot of technology she knows about. And so I say, well, are you able to get us out of here somewhere? Is there a place far away from here where we could potentially go that isn't Earth? Somewhere habitable? And so we began our journey. Not through the Milky Way, but we went even furthermore out. We decided to go to the galaxy of Andromeda, which is 2.5 light years away. And we eventually find a planet and just establish a small foundation there. And this is the planet we call the United Planet today. And the planetary system, we call it Ventara. Something that we also know so far is that the United Planet has 2 moons and a sun that is a not sure how the term for those is called, but it's basically one of those small white suns. Relatively new sun or star. And so this is how the United Planet came to be. It's like a planet. And there's essentially a project that I've worked on, which is a game which takes place on that planet. First it was going to be a Roblox game. But then at one point I said, no, we're gonna move away from that platform because it's a very abysmal platform. And so I said, okay, we're gonna move to Sandbox. which is a great engine. It runs on the Source 2 engine, which I quite enjoy. There's a lot of things that I like to mess around in that engine. But yeah, yeah, I just noticed that I didn't even mention her name. She did say that her name is Aria. More than that, she didn't really say for now. For now, what we did was establish a small foundation on the planet. I think I said that already, but whatever. We kept on building. Aria also knew or knows blueprints of herself, so we started to construct copies of Aria, which are construction robots. And so we started to construct a somewhat spacious city, which is encased in this big glass dome. And at one point we decided, okay, let's bring some other people here. We're not gonna have any laws here. Everyone is gonna get to be free. We have all the technology. No one has to fight or anything here. And so yeah, we give people homes. We have the resource that we need. And at that point, all of this, or this story, it basically continues with the community that we have today. We immerse ourselves into this universe with our chatting community. If you're curious, I actually have the whole story on my website. I tried to improvise the story as I know it right now, but you will get the whole picture on a website if you're interested. But now that brings me to the next topic about how I came up with the name Paddy's Dreamland. It started off with pretty much my mobile phone. There used to be hard times where I were mostly stressed. Most of the time I needed something to distract myself with. So I had my phone. There were some backgrounds that I really like to look at. There were certain characters I had as backgrounds, and they gave me so much joy and comfort. And whenever I would feel stressed, I would just look down on my phone and it would calm me down. My phone was essentially a distraction from reality. And so I eventually named my phone. Well, as you know, you can rename your devices, so I named my phone Paddy's Dreamland because it was that comfortable to me. But Paddy, on the other hand, it was a fictional name that came from another name called Drawing Pad. I was playing on some dark RP servers on Gary's Mod the other day, and there was one that required me to have a realistic name. So I took Drawing Pad and I flipped those two words, I basically flipped those two words and it became Pad Drawing. And I started to refine those two words in a way that made it become Paddy Draw. And so I eventually grew into that name. And it at some point even became my real legal name. Well, to shorten this a little, Paddy Dreamland is a phone name. It eventually developed itself into a community name that we use today. And I think it's pretty awesome. Now, another follow-up to the journey to Euphoria. I didn't really elaborate on how it will be like. All I said was there's going to be a few resource pack that's gonna like customize, personalize the experience. But what I didn't tell is that the experience is going to be modded. We're gonna add a few unique mods that most people really don't play with these days. Like we have like the TARDIS mod, there's a few more mods, and well, in any case, it's gonna be interesting to see where this will all go, because I always wanted to have a modded forever world, and having it as a source of comfort for my community where I stream it on a daily or maybe a weekly basis. It's gonna be a great thing to try. So the next one is an announcement that I wanted to announce. The community used to have a small portion called the Dreamland Nook. This is where we used to gather with our community and talk about certain like sensitive topics, like certain problems that some people had. It's basically a like section of the community where we gathered around and open up about our feelings and what was going on in our lives. But it's not just limited to therapy like sessions. There's also stuff like we did movie nights, we played games together. We pretty much brought the community back together that way. I'll bring it together. Whatever. Oh, you get the point. And so, yeah, considering I'm announcing this, I'll do want to bring it back. And hopefully we will start our gatherings again someday. For example, there's a topic I would love to talk about in the Nook. Me, for example, I am an ex-smoker. I used to smoke. I've smoked for 2 years and right now I am clean for 5 months now. The story with how I started all of this is quite, well, you could technically say that it's my parents' fault, but at the same time it's also kind of my fault for doing all of this. Well, let's start with this. So, my parents and siblings went to vacation and I was the only one staying at home. And at some point they come back home and they bring back those disposable vapes. And so they nudged me to try one, and I mean, sure, I knew that smoking isn't exactly good, but I decided, okay, why not? Let's try it. And so I take one pull, and it just hits me. This shock that I've received that goes through my limbs, the way it just strikes through my arms and legs, it felt... It was a feeling that's... like, wow, it felt pretty good. So... obviously I didn't want to do too much, so I just kept it away. Until one day I started to take like one pull. Like one day. The next day I keep it at one pull, and at one day I start to take more and more. And that's how I at some point got addicted to these vapes and nicotine as a whole. And my addiction kept on going for 2 years. And like I'm speaking from experience here, it's pretty difficult to let go from it. One day you wake up, you want a pull. Before you go to sleep, you also want a pull. If you try to go out of your way and just keep the vape where it is and just live your life, no, it's not going to work that way, because those cravings, they're gonna creep up on you. And it will make it difficult for... it will be difficult to live your life without trying to get at least one pull before continuing what you were gonna do. I'll just... I need a moment. Yeah, it was very addicting. It was pretty difficult to let go. In 2 years before I completely let go of it, I've got my trance diagnosis, and I attempted to let go of those vapes and start to use patches, because I knew that at some point I am going to take quite difficult to word what I want to say. Well, easily said, I had to quit because of hormone therapy. And so I started to take those patches so I could clear my body from those harmful chemicals that take like 1 or 2 weeks to clear. But those nicotine patches, on the other hand, they just provide you with nicotine and nothing else, so I stick to those for about 2 weeks. And despite my body still receiving the nicotine that I've craved, there were still those withdrawal symptoms where my hand would occasionally reach for the spot where my vape used to stand. And it was difficult to fight that. I always would have to remind myself, no, I don't smoke anymore, I cannot do this, I have a patch now. And so this kept on going until I eventually just stopped doing these, until I stopped grabbing for air. Like, literally. I eventually got my first appointment for a blood test, so the doctors can see my hormone levels. And so before that day occurred, I stopped using patches entirely, and On the next day, I arrived completely clean and did the blood test. It was all right. They didn't found anything harmful. I was like actually clean. And so from that day I decided, okay, let's not take any patches anymore and just try not to do any patches, not to smoke at all. And that's exactly what I did. I've stopped smoking with just 2 weeks of patches. And it just worked out for me. And now I've been clean for about 5 months now. And I'm also on hormone therapy for about 5 months now. It all happened parallel. And when it comes to smoking itself, when you stop and become an ex-smoker, you will occasionally get dreams where you dream about yourself smoking, and then you wake up and think, no, will this actually like give me cravings again because of how it felt like in the dream? No, it won't. But these dreams, they are pretty persistent, and you will definitely get a lot more of those dreams where you smoke. Yeah. Yeah, those are definitely the kind of things that we would be discussing in the Nook itself. Of course, instead of smoking, there's also some dreams I get about being bullied, being dead named. There's also dreams I get about school experiences. Yeah, if you're interested in this whole Nook thing, come join us. We welcome you. We're nice. We're great people. Of course I'm biased here, but hey, it's true. We're not gonna bite. Yep, that is pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about in this entry, and holy cow, we've almost reached the 30-minute mark. So, yeah, once again, thank you for sticking by this far, and I'll hopefully see you in the third entry. So, see ya. Boop.